Hello, welcome to the queue. It is Operation MLEC2, and it is the final video as the German assault on Moscow came up short. So the Axis have surrendered. Well, that's moving around a lot. Sorry about that. Here's the victory points. The first frame is solid. There's nothing the Allies can do about those. The second frame here, China, Hong Kong, Shanghai, and the genocide point were all in play depending on how Japan set up its defense. They could definitely wall off Hong Kong or Shanghai, or I don't know that they could have prevented the China resurgence. They could have prevented the genocide, though, based off who took China back. And then, like I said, Moscow was right there on the table, but they didn't get it, so it comes over to that side. Resources, they had a transport, so they could have gotten that Australian territory and gotten the resource point. But then it would have been in this grouping of, the Allies had the ability to take back. So that leaves them with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And you need 12 to win. Normally you need 13, but we used that card deck of disposition, which removed one victory objective and then 1 point for the win. So it went from 13 to 12. So the Axis just needed 12. The point that we chose to remove was the Imperial point, which they actually had. So it's basically a wash. So if it would have been 13, they would have had 12 and needed one more. But they did have Leningrad, oil, Southeast Asia, and Cairo that the Allies did wrestle back and managed to keep. So the two that were in play was Moscow, which, came up short on the last turn, and then the Reich. I don't think, because they didn't have much of Russia at the end of this game. I don't know that was even, it might have been close on the Reich. So anyway, the opportunities were there for the victory. Like I said, they're in Moscow. I haven't changed the units, but all the Germans are gone, and there are the Allied tanks left, and I think 1 infantry, maybe 2, but either way, close battle, and dice could have gone either way, but we had plenty, I think, set up to counterattack Moscow. That transport here could easily come down here to Western Australia, which would have, to keep the transports that Commonwealth built from coming over, you just would have needed a couple ships. And then I think that they might have been able to hold that because this guy went over. There was 1 tank that could drive over if they couldn't get through the ships there. But any ships committed here meant ships were not able to defend Hong Kong, Shanghai, Tokyo. Really, you could drop enough there that was not an issue. But you've got some Americans on both sides of resources that you either had to deal with or defend up, those zones. So, but I think the real crux of this game was the Russian-Japanese conflict here in Kansu. The amount of resources that Russia committed forces Japan to do the same, and it really wasn't until turn 8 that Japan had enough here that there was going to be no counterattack. So from when Russia came into the war through turn 7, this battle was in question, and it just ate up a lot of units. Oddly enough, not enough that Moscow fell, but enough Axis units that they could not be defending the coast or proceeding on to the Southeast Asia point or even maybe into Calcutta. So I think the game if you're going to give out a game ball for the player in this game, it would be Joe for, or GI Joe for his play here, because that was a lot of Russian units that were committed in there, which initially allowed Germany to suck up a bunch of territories. Now Russia was able to get them back, mainly I think due to the U.S. and Britain coming up, well, in Commonwealth, with forces to help defend Moscow and counterattack Moscow. So that gave them some breathing room there. But overall, pretty good game. Another interesting note, too, I think Japan, up until turn 7, did not buy a ship. Maybe they bought a transport or two, but a warship, I don't think. In turn 7, they bought 5 destroyers. At least that's kind of what I'm thinking. So their mostly focus was on the land. Humongous amount of tanks that they've got, so they could easily take Yunnan and try and stack it. This battle's over, so those tanks could come down. That's probably more than the British had to punch through. I do have these 2 fighters here that could come. That's why we built the air base. So this battle probably doesn't get won by the British. But at the same time, then all these forces are down here. You can't defend the whole coast. You could put your ships up as a blocker, but where the Allies are located, you really can't block everything. And if they would have had enough to block the U.S. forces, then the U.S. just becomes the battering ram, and the Commonwealth comes through and takes whatever along the coast they can. So that was the strategy anyway. So there you have a good game. The Chaplain and Admiral Balch played a good Axis game. Like I said, Joe, I think, gets the game ball for his play here on the Russia-Chinese border. So that is it. Thanks for watching this whole game. And I appreciate all the comments and the views. Thank you much.